their right
let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
Kristi Noem is about as qualified to be the head of Homeland Security as she is to be the head of a doggy daycare. Real-life Cruella de Vil here is having a hearing in front of Congress where she is absolutely embarrassing herself because she can't give the definition of something as foundational and important as habeas corpus. Now, of course, this is just another example of the modern Republican strategy of playing dumb in order to get around perjury. You can't perjure yourself if you pretend you're too stupid to know the definition of words. Donald Trump and all of his jesters might look like clowns, but that's just so you don't take them seriously. Real quick before we dive in, if you guys enjoy this kind of coverage, make sure to join our little resistance here at Really American by subscribing. It's free, it's easy, and it helps us tremendously. Thank you.
So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to...
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President Lincoln used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason. Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea. As a senator from the Live Free or Die state, this matters a lot to me and my constituents and to all Americans. So, Secretary Noem, do you support the core protection that habeas corpus provides, that the government must provide a public reason in order to detain and imprison someone?
Yeah, I support habeas corpus. I also recognize that the President of the United States has the authority under the Constitution to decide if it should be suspended or not.
It has never
Let us be clear, though, that this president...
It has never been done without approval of Congress. Even Abraham Lincoln got retroactive approval from Congress.
But Costume Queen over here knows what habeas corpus is. This is from a week ago. Kristi Noem saying illegal immigration levels could warrant suspending habeas corpus. Clearly, she knows that habeas corpus is the right to challenge your detention and that you can suspend it in times of a war and invasion. The answer that she gave is very different than that. I don't know if it counts as lying to Congress, but we impeached a president for that, remember?
I have been asking executive branch nominees a simple question over the past few months. If the president orders them to break the law, I've been asking, will you follow the law or follow the order? I want to ask you a more specific question here. If the president tries to suspend habeas corpus and a federal court reverses the president's order, will you comply with the court order and uphold habeas corpus, or will you follow the president's directive?
We are following all federal court orders and are complying with that, as is the president, and every decision that I make as well.
That is obviously not true for anybody who reads the news. There are federal court orders right now, including returning somebody who was deported mistakenly. But to be clear, this is about a fundamental legal right that ensures that we live in a free society instead of a police state.
Now, I don't know what kind of response Kristi Noem thought she was going to get when she gave that horrible answer to Senator Hassan here. It's baffling to me that Kristi Noem was the best they could do when it came to Homeland Security. She should just spend her time doing what she clearly wants to do, making a fascist calendar for neo-Nazis. After all, she loves to cosplay, as pointed out by Senator Gallego.
No idea, but I do spend time out there with our components, making sure that they are know that they have a secretary that's engaged with them, that's visiting with them, seeing what their needs are. No, sir, they're not photos. They've meant the world to the individuals at the Department of Homeland Security. They have meant the world to our ICE agents, our border agents, when they ask me to be out there with them, so they know what they're...
But clearly, this woman just doesn't know what she's talking about. Senator Kim comes back at her with the habeas corpus question, and she just flat out doesn't even know where it's from, what article it's in, like basically anything about it, which is shocking considering she's the one that's in charge of removing people from the United States.
I wanted to just go back to something that was raised earlier about habeas corpus. Can you confirm to us that you understand that any suspension of habeas corpus requires an act of Congress?
President Lincoln executed habeas corpus in the past with retroactive action by Congress. I believe that any president that was able to do that in the past, it should be afforded to our current day president. This president has never said he's going to do this. He's never communicated to me or his administration that they're going to consider suspending habeas corpus.
The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at.
But I do think the Constitution allows them the right to consider it.
When we saw what happened with, how many times has habeas corpus been suspended in our country?
Once that I know of.
4 times.
For certain. I'm not certain if those were...
The instance that you were referring to was one where the courts subsequently showed that Congress is the one that has the ability. Do you know what section of the Constitution the suspension clause of habeas corpus is in?
I do not. Nope.
Do you know which article it is in?
No, I do not, sir.
Okay, well, it is in Article 1. Do you know which branch of government Article 1 outlines the tasks and the responsibilities for?
Yes.
Which one?
Congress.
Yes.
Are you open and supportive of this constitutional option to suspend the writ of habeas corpus to keep Americans safe and carry out the president's agenda?
Well, this is something that's not in my purview to weigh in on. This is the president's prerogative to pursue, and he has not indicated to me that he will or will not be taking that action.
So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at.
Do you guys remember when George Bush was considered stupid? We've gotten to the point where the lunatics are running the loony bin. I mean, to them, if their goal is to tear it all down, then who cares if anybody knows what the definition of words are? We know that they want to suspend habeas corpus so that they can jail their enemies like Barack Obama and Beyonce and Bruce Springsteen, apparently. And we know that they've been framing undocumented immigration as an invasion, as a pretext in order to suspend habeas corpus. I mean, Trump said himself that there's way too many undocumented migrants, well, he said illegal immigrants in the United States, for due process.
Due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know.
as
It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. But some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Well, I don't know, folks. What do you think? Let me down in the comments. What does Pam Bondi think about suspending habeas corpus? Something that she has no control over, and doesn't matter what she thinks because Trump can't do that. Congress is supposed to authorize suspending habeas corpus. Like Senator Hassan said, Lincoln got retroactive permission and he only suspended it because of, you know, the Civil War. When you let a baboon be president, I guess we shouldn't be surprised when his friends start slinging shit at the wall. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.